This isn't merely a tale of commerce. It's a story about life. It's the story of a young man who grew up in hardship, who saw his father endure suffering, who resided in rundown apartments and navigated the world feeling unseen. And yet, he would go on to create one of the planet's most cherished brands. It wasn't just another coffee house. It was a brand that reshaped how people begin their day. He wasn't born into wealth. He had no influential contacts. He didn't even create the company he would later revolutionize. He was met with ridicule and rejection. He was told that no one would ever spend $3 on a cup of coffee. He faced refusal not just once, not 10 times, but 217 times. And yet, he persevered. His name is Howard Schultz. This is the narrative of how he transformed a difficult childhood into a global billion-dollar brand. It's about how he turned a simple beverage into a cultural phenomenon, and how rejection fueled his unstoppable drive. Part 1. The Boy from Brooklyn, New York, 1953. Howard Schultz was born into a world where dreams were modest because life itself was a struggle. He was raised in the Bayview housing projects, a government-subsidized housing complex in a tough Brooklyn neighborhood where families lived from one paycheck to the next. His father worked as a delivery driver, a job with no real security or health benefits. One day, his father slipped on a patch of ice and severely injured his hip. And the result? Nothing. There was no medical assistance, no compensation, and no support system. Howard witnessed his father, a once strong man, become broken and defeated almost overnight. He watched him sit on the couch, jobless, dejected, and filled with a sense of failure. There was no one there to offer help or to show they cared. Howard would later reflect on this time, saying, "That moment changed me. I saw what it meant to be a number, not a person. I promised myself, if I ever built a company, it would honor people, not crush them." He was just a boy, but that pain was etched into his soul. The family was so poor that Howard was often ashamed to invite friends over. He had no private space, no luxuries, and at times not even enough clothing. He once said, "When you're that poor, you never forget it. Poverty leaves a shadow." But this shadow didn't defeat him. It ignited a fire within him. Howard had no clear path to success, but he possessed a single superpower: determination. He engaged in sports, took on various odd jobs, sold newspapers, and saved his money. Against all odds, he became the first person in his family to attend college. But even that was a challenge. He didn't attend an Ivy League school. He went to Northern Michigan University on a football scholarship, working as a bartender and salesman to cover his expenses. After graduating, he began a career as a salesman for Xerox, one of the top sales training companies of that era. He excelled at his job, but Howard was searching for more. One day, he joined a small kitchenware company. His task was to sell coffee machines to local cafes. And that's when something extraordinary occurred. While reviewing sales data, he saw that one small client in Seattle was purchasing more of his coffee machines than anyone else. Intrigued, he flew there to understand why. The company was named Starbucks. At that time, it was a small operation with only 4 locations. It didn't even serve coffee to drink, only beans, grinders, and equipment. But there was something captivating about the people, the energy, and the philosophy. Howard was instantly enchanted. He said, "There was something magical about Starbucks. I saw more than coffee. I saw warmth, authenticity, culture." In that moment, a seed was planted. He left his job and joined Starbucks. However, he couldn't have known that this single decision would set him on a course for the greatest challenge of his life. Howard Schultz had known pain. He had felt invisible. He had experienced poverty, hopelessness, and humiliation. But he also carried a dream to build something greater than what his father had, to create a company that treated people with respect. And in Starbucks, he had found the perfect ground to plant his dream. What he didn't realize yet was that the very people he looked up to would soon reject his most ambitious idea. They would tell him, "That's not who we are." But Howard Schultz was not an ordinary man. He wasn't just going to sell coffee. He was going to sell a new way of life. Howard Schultz had become part of Starbucks, a small company in Seattle. He wasn't the owner. He wasn't wealthy. He was simply an employee. But within him, a grander vision was taking shape, a vision no one else could yet see. Part 2. The coffee that forged a culture. In 1983, Starbucks sent Howard to a trade show in Milan, Italy. It was meant to be a brief business trip, but what he found there would alter the course of his life. As he wandered the streets of Milan, something captured his heart. There were espresso bars on every corner, bustling, vibrant, and filled with people. But they weren't simply drinking coffee. They were talking, laughing, sharing moments, and connecting. The barista knew customers by name. People came not just for the coffee, but for the experience, the emotion, and the community. Howard stood there, speechless, felt like he had entered a different world. This is it, he thought. This is what America is missing. We don't have this culture, this experience, this feeling. He didn't see a beverage. He saw warmth, belonging, and something profoundly human. When he returned to Seattle, Howard walked into the Starbucks office, filled with excitement. He told the founders, "We need to open coffee bars, not just sell beans. Let people drink the coffee here. Let's create that Italian espresso culture right here in America." He was thrilled, confident, and ready to pioneer something new. But the response he received was crushing. The founders of Starbucks, Jerry Baldwin, Zev Siegel, and Gordon Boker, listened to his pitch quietly. Then they delivered their verdict. "No, that's not who we are. We sell coffee beans, not serve drinks." They didn't think Americans would ever embrace the concept. They believed people wouldn't pay $2 or $3 for a cup of coffee, and that the idea was too risky and unconventional. Howard was devastated. This was his moment, his dream, his mission, and it had been dismissed. He didn't argue or shout. But in that moment he knew, if they won't do it, I have to do it myself. And so, armed with nothing but his belief, Howard made the most significant decision of his life. He would leave Starbucks to open his own coffee bar. He was heartbroken because he loved the company, but his dream was more powerful than his loyalty. In 1985, he resigned. He decided to launch a company called Il Giornale, named after an Italian newspaper. But he was starting with nothing. He had to raise the necessary funds to begin. Howard was unwavering in his belief. He assumed investors would share his vision. But what followed was rejection after rejection. He walked into meetings filled with passion and walked out to closed doors. He was told, "Americans won't pay $3 for coffee. You're not Italian. This won't work here. You're dreaming too big." He was laughed at, ignored, and insulted. He later said, "I was rejected 217 times. That number is burned into my brain." But he persisted, day after day, meeting after meeting, pitch after pitch, until finally 30 investors said yes. He raised $400,000, and in 1986, he opened his first coffee bar in Seattle. It wasn't just a shop. It was a love letter to Italy. Howard ensured every detail was different. Soft Italian music played, and baristas remembered customers' names. You didn't just purchase a coffee, you had an experience. and people loved it.il. Journal was an immediate success. Howard had proven them all wrong. While his new venture was thriving, something unexpected happened. The founders of Starbucks, the very people who had said no, decided to sell their company. Howard saw his chance, a monumental and perilous one. The dream that was once denied him was now for sale. But there was a hurdle. In 1987, Howard learned the asking price. To acquire Starbucks, he needed $3.8 million. That's equivalent to about $10 million today. Howard didn't have that kind of capital. He was still in the early stages of building his own business. But this was more than a business transaction for him. It was personal. This was his ultimate dream. So once again, he entered the fray. He approached every investor he could find. He pleaded, he pitched, he poured his heart out. He told them, "This is not just a coffee company. This is my life's purpose." Finally, after weeks of relentless effort, he secured the funding. In August 1987, at the age of 34, Howard Schultz bought Starbucks for $3.8 million. And he didn't just acquire a company. He bought back his vision. Part 3. The comeback. The year is 2008. Starbucks is facing turmoil. The global economy is in freefall as the world enters a financial crisis. People are losing their jobs, families are reducing their spending, and suddenly, a $4 coffee feels less like a small indulgence and more like an unaffordable luxury. Sales plummet. Customer traffic declines. Store traffic dwindles. Starbucks, once a beacon of modern culture, is now being labeled as overpriced, overrated, and overextended. The numbers are grim. In a single year, the stock price collapsed from $40 to under $8, an 80% crash. Store closures began, with hundreds of locations shutting down. Thousands of employees were laid off. The morale within the company hit rock bottom. The magic was gone. Behind the scenes, one man is observing, helpless, frustrated, and heartbroken. Howard Schultz is no longer the CEO. He had stepped down in 2000. He remained the chairman, watching from afar. He visits the stores and feels a deep sense of disappointment. This is not what I built, he thinks. He sees operational issues, distracted baristas, and customers who feel rushed and anonymous. The very essence of Starbucks, the warm, personal connection, was disappearing. Then one day, the board of directors approaches him with a plea. "Howard, we need you back." It's January 2008. Howard Schultz, now 54 years old, steps back in as the CEO of Starbucks. But this time is different. He isn't returning to lead a victory parade. He's returning to rescue a dying dream. He knows the truth. This will be the most arduous battle of his life. The world is in crisis, the media is skeptical, the company is faltering, and its culture is fractured. But Howard doesn't waver. He steps in with determination in his eyes and declares to his team, "We are not in the coffee business serving people. We are in the people business serving coffee. And we've forgotten that." Howard initiates a series of radical changes. 1. He closes 900 stores across the U.S. and internationally. Not because they were unprofitable, but because they no longer embodied the brand's sole point. 2. He makes the painful decision to let go of thousands of employees. It's a heartbreaking move, but he knows it's necessary for survival. Point 3. He puts a stop to all new store openings. The focus shifts from rapid growth back to quality. Point 4. He cuts his own annual salary to just $1, sending a powerful message. This is not about me. This is about saving us. 5. He retrains every single barista. Howard shuts down all 7,000 U.S. stores for one day for a nationwide espresso retraining session. The move costs millions in lost revenue, but to him, it's an invaluable investment. That day, every Starbucks partner rediscovers the art of the perfect espresso. Howard says, "We're not just fixing technique, we're bringing back pride." Part 4. The final cup. By 2017, Starbucks has made a full recovery. The brand is more robust than ever. It boasts over 25,000 stores worldwide, a market value exceeding $80 billion, and more than 300,000 employees. Its logo is one of the most recognized on the planet, with customers in over 70 countries. The stock price has surged by thousands of percent since its initial public offering. But more than the metrics, something else has returned. The aroma of authentic coffee, the sound of gentle music, the sight of baristas smiling again, and the vibrant energy of connection within the stores. The Starbucks experience is alive once more. Howard walks into a store in Brooklyn, not far from where he was raised. He observes a young barista handing a cup to an elderly man, smiling and saying, "This one's on me today, sir. You always brighten our day." Howard smiles. That, he feels, is what it's all about. He didn't just want to build the biggest coffee company. He wanted to build the most human one. And he succeeded. This is the end of the Starbucks story, but it should be the start of yours. Maybe you don't have the funds. Maybe your family doesn't believe in you. Maybe you feel invisible. But remember this: if Howard Schultz could do it, so can you. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for comfort. Don't wait for the world's applause. Start now. Build. Believe. Begin. Because your dream matters.